From the EPAWA headquarters in South Allentown, Pennsylvania, it's time for Weather Weeklies, an informative video of the ins and outs of weather that affect you most in the EPAWA coverage area. The following segment is a weekly video blog, and the opinions of the forecaster do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the staff of Eastern PA Weather Authority LLC as a whole, nor its constituents. Without further ado, here is meteorologist Bobby Martrus with Weather Weeklies.
And good Sunday morning to everybody. I know everybody's excited about this snow coming, or maybe fearing the snow coming, but it's starting to look more and more likely that that's going to happen this Wednesday. So we're going to get into that, but I want to start off with the long range today. Just a quick note here. We did change the name to Weather Weeklies. It was Weather Wise before, but that is we found out that is trademarked and copyrighted, so we don't want any problems with the copyright owner. So we are changing the names to Weather Weeklies. Same video. Just a different name there. So we're going to go into the long-range pattern. This is done by meteorologist Mike DeFino. He's our long-range guy for Eastern PA Weather Authority. He's a CalU guy for any of you guys that went to CalU, so he's very good at the long range. So this is what we have outlined in the most recent long-range outlook. The temperatures are going to be above average up through about the 25th. This is talking about the period from today being the 23rd up to the 25th, which is Tuesday. We're going to be above normal, especially on Monday, and we'll get into that exactly. As we go through the course of the video here. We did outline this area here, the 26th to the 30th, as being below average. And this is the time frame. If you're going to have a storm, you're going to have it thread the needle right in this time frame here. And it looks like we're going to have not one, but two chances of that. The first one being the more robust. The second one's just a little northern stream system that could dive in, like a little clipper type system that could bring a little bit of light snow as we head towards next weekend. We're really not going to talk about that one so much in the video because, one, it's not very significant. And two, it's going to a lot is going to depend on what happens with this storm, whether the second one comes to fruition, and how they interact and things like that. So, second one's not a big deal. I don't want to scare anybody like, oh, good Lord, we got a couple in a row coming here. But you see, after this point here, we go to above average, and this is going to be for the first at least 10 days of December. Probably about the first 2 weeks of December we're looking at where it's going to be above average, and we're talking about for that entire period. It doesn't mean the entire period you're going to be in the 60s. What it means is whatever average is for this time of year, you're going to average in that period slightly above normal from where you were or what you're expected to be for that time frame. This is a part of the time frame that we're expecting the pattern to kind of reload and re-energize, and then once we hit the 15th, you're in it for good. So we flip into cold and snowy, and if you looked at our winter outlook, we actually did it from the effective dates were December 1st through March 31st. So one of the things we noted that any snow you get in November and April on either side of the winter outlook is considered bonus snow. So if you're wondering how this is going to affect our forecast for the winter, it doesn't. This is just bonus snow on top of what we expected. We're already pretty robust to begin with. We're about 140% of normal expected snowfall this year across most areas in our coverage areas here. So if you get this snow now, you're actually well ahead of the game, and we're still expecting that to occur during that time frame of December 1st through March 31st. So before we get to questions, just understand that this has nothing to do with the winter outlook. This is all bonus snow. So let's get into the pattern here for the first 2 weeks of December. I talked about how it's going to be warmer. The models are pretty sold on the idea that we're going to get more of a zonal flow. What does that mean? More of a west to east flow. Very progressive, very fast. That allows the jet stream to stay up to the north, and all your cold air is up here, and your warm air is all down here. So since we're on the warm side here, these oranges, yellow, whatever you want to call this color here, I guess orange here, this is indicating above normal heights, which promote the warmer air to come in here. So we are expecting the warmer air, but not incredibly warm. So if that makes any sense, we're just like slightly above normal here for the first couple of weeks of December here. And again, it doesn't mean all the time. It just means that if you take the 10-day average, you're going to be above normal during that period, and all your cold is stuck up here in Canada. So which isn't a bad thing. It's just the pattern reloading, and I think once you get to December 15th, like I said, I think there's a pretty good indication that we flip, and we flip to stay once we get from December 15th or thereabout onward. So there's always a question of what our winter outlook, when exactly it was going to flip. It does still look on target for that time frame. Now let's get into the warmth on Monday. This is what has people confused. Everybody's looking at these little apps you have on your phone here, whether it be the Weather Channel or whatever app you have on your phone that you're using. And you're seeing all this warmth on here on Monday. And yes, this is true. It is going to be very warm on Monday. And you're wondering, well, how you have snow? How do you have snow just 2 days later on Wednesday? That's doesn't sound right. Well, normally it doesn't. But when you're dealing with atmospheric physics, you have to understand how this works. It doesn't really matter. Everybody thinks if it's warm a couple days prior, that you can't have snow right after that. I mean, somebody posted on our Facebook page this morning, made a very good point. The blizzard in 1978 in Toledo, Ohio, was in the 70s, the day before the storm hit, and they got buried with a blizzard. So you can't just assume that just because it's the day before, or in this case 2 days before, that it's so warm that you can't have snow, because there's a lot of drivers in the atmosphere. The atmosphere is very powerful. I do a lot of things very easily. There's a lot of different factors. We're going to talk about some of those factors here. But here's the temperatures on Monday here, up in the mid-60s over the central areas here. You see some 70 degrees. I don't know if it's hard to see or not, but here 70 degrees from Philadelphia all the way down to the Baltimore-Washington area, all the way down to Delaware, southern New Jersey. This area I'm circling here is all 70 degrees. So I do think we can hit that on Monday. But again, there's going to be a cold front coming in through after that. It's going to knock temperatures back Tuesday to near normal for this time of year. So we're talking about 50, 52, something like that for highs. It will be cooler, but still, that's still way too warm to snow on Tuesday. But again, one other example I wanted to use, we talk about the blizzard 78 that somebody put that comment up. If you remember that Halloween storm we had on October 29th, and everybody's saying, wow, first of all, it's October. It can't snow in October that much. And second of all, it's 57 degrees. 57 degrees was the high temperature in Allentown the day before. All right, this is where I live. 57 degrees it was the day before the storm hit. The next day, we had heavy snow up in this whole area here, and very heavy accumulating snow. And this was on October 29th. Now you're talking about the middle of November here. You're talking about November, what is this, 27th, Wednesday? So it's a month later, so it's a lot more plausible of an idea. This is not impossible to get snow in November. I mean, November's, especially towards the end of November, you increase your likelihood of having snow this time of year. So here's the warmth setup, and this is what we're talking about for tonight. You have a low pressure up moving up basically through the Chicago area. It's going to move up to the northeast like this. This is a warm front that's being dragged through the area here. Rain, of course, ahead of it is going to occur overnight tonight. This is Sunday night, and behind it you have this warm surge of air that's going to sit up to follow it on Monday. So once you have this system move up here, and once you get that warm sector through, you're going to have a cold front that's back here, and this cold front is going to swing through. Now again, this is going to be during the day later on Monday. Monday night, this cold front is going to come through. So in the meantime, you're going to be warm sector and have those very warm temperatures. Once this cold front comes through, it's going to knock temperatures back to near normal for this time of year, and then it's going to set the stage for the next storm. Now, one of the things we look at when we're looking for storms and whether they're possible, the biggest driver is going to be the upper air pattern. This is not, a lot of you hobbyists and whatnot will look at the surface reflections and you'll see a model showing snow and it looks great. You have to look at, as a meteorologist, you have to look at the upper air pattern and see if it makes sense. And in this case, it does. So if you want to see why we're so robust with this system, here's your upper air vorticity. This is up at 18,000 feet. And you can see this big dip here. This is a trough that's sitting up here, and this is also a negatively tilted trough. Not heavy negative, but it's a negatively tilted trough. So basically, you have a storm that's organizing down here. It's going to move up the coastline here and follow where that vorticity is. This is where the jet stream is up at this is where the jet stream driver is. So you're going to have a storm follow that trough axis. And you can have some phasing. This is a perfectly timed system. You have to have all these pieces come together at the perfect time. So this is what we call a thread the needle storm. So there still is room for error. These are very difficult to forecast. But if I'm going to forecast something off of a model using phasing and an East Coast storm, I'm going to take the European model 9 times out of 10. Just because the European model, just the way the computer algorithms that go into the model, itself are just basically they handle the phasing of streams better, and they handle East Coast storms better. So when the European model last night came in for a third consecutive run, showing a ton of snow over I-95 and in the interior. So it's hard for us to argue against that, especially with the upper air pattern supporting it. So we go into the question of when it's so warm on Monday, how can it snow? We have two different processes here at work. One is evaporational cooling, and that is, and this will happen, I think, on Wednesday. You're going to have temperatures that might be too warm initially, and then as the rain, it starts off as rain in some spots, unless you are in a colder spot, but for some areas, it'll start off as rain. As the rain comes down through the atmosphere, it actually cools the air around it. And then as it evaporates, it cools as well. So what that will do, you can have temperatures about 37, 38 degrees, and you'll see as the rain falls, the temperature drops. Because this starts off as snow up in the clouds here. And the more it comes down, the more it evaporates, the more it cools the air around it. I kind of call this the icebox effect. You ever have that in the summertime when you go have a cooler full of sodas, beers, or whatever, and you have ice in the cooler, and it's 90 degrees outside. You open the cooler, and you feel before you even come close to the ice or touch anything in the cooler, you can feel that cold rush come out here. And that's what basically happens. It cools the air around it. And so as it continues to cool and that evaporation keeps taking place, it'll change to snow, and snow travels all the way to the ground. So that's how evaporational cooling works. But there's another thing at work here besides evaporational cooling, and this is called dynamic cooling. Now, when you have a system like this, it's so strong off the coast. Okay, once this gets really wrapped up, it'll actually generate its own cold air source as it pulls cold air into the system from the northwest like this. So these areas here, in the interior especially, would have to be on the watch for some big time snows. Again, it doesn't have to be that warm the day prior to have this happen. This is atmospheric physics. That's all this is. You think everything in the world works on physics. The atmosphere is no different. So if you have this system bombing out here off the Delmarva and then heading up like this, you're going to have a lot of cold air being drawn into the system, and that's where you get your changeover from rain to snow. So you have a combination of the evaporational cooling and the dynamic cooling that will allow this to happen. So here's the GFS now. Now the GFS is starting to get a little bit more in line with the European model. The European model actually takes us a little bit closer here, kind of like this. This is where the Euro track is. Here's where your GFS track is, but you can still see, even with the GFS track, you still get some pretty good snow here. Okay, so the GFS for the first time is starting to come around to this idea that the European model has had for several runs in a row now. Now, it's not quite as robust, but it's getting the right idea. And if you look at the upper air patterns, if you go back to what we showed you here, this is actually the upper air pattern of the GFS. And you can see this is much more in line with what the European has. Oops, I went back too far. This is much more in line with what the European model has. So, at least from an upper air pattern perspective, the GFS and the European model are very close. Now, as far as snowfall output, here's what the latest run. I know this is a 6C GFS here, but you're getting the idea here that it wants to put snow here, accumulating snow, in a pretty large area here. And this is all accumulating snow in this entire area, but this area I'm circling here is 6 inches or greater. All right, now the GFS has been showing snow for a couple runs now, but it hasn't been showing it this much. So we're going to, there's a lot of different models we look at. But we also look at the model ensembles. Ensembles we talked about in previous videos. The model ensembles will actually run an additional 20 times on the GFS, and it will run an additional 50 times on the European model. And there's pretty good agreement with the ensembles too that there's going to be a storm out here. The question is, how far east is it or west? I don't think it's coming too far west here because we don't have a block. If we had a block, this would be an easy forecast. Since we don't have a block in Greenland right now, the NAO is positive. Now it's trending negative, but it's still positive. They usually indicate storms just kind of headed out like this. But because you have that phasing, that allows it to round the trough and do one of these numbers here. Now the question is, how far east does it get? If it gets right here, we're getting crushed. If it's sitting out here further, you might not. You might just get a slight grace here, and that's still something we still have to figure out. So this is nothing set in stone. Even though the models are under 70, we're getting into the 72-hour range, you would think that they're starting to come in line here, but there's a lot of changes that can be made last minute. One of those changes are going to be with the short range. The short range models are coming in. Here's the latest SREFs. These are short range ensemble members, but you see how far east this is? This is a lot further east. Okay, if it's not up here like the European model is, but it still gets snow. back in these areas here. So the SRAF is starting to come in. It's at max range right now. Another model that's at max range is the NAM. It has a complete miss. It is sitting way out here, and this is heading out this way. So nothing. Same with the Canadian. Canadian has nothing. So there are opportunities that this will miss, but I'm not siding with that. That's because you have this setup here where, for the European model, it's 3 runs in a row now showing this storm here and showing these incredible amounts. Now, will it be those incredible amounts of a foot of snow? Well, we don't know yet. We're going to have to narrow that down. So we're prepared to make a first call tonight as long as the guidance holds at 12Z, which is the afternoon runs that run through about 1:30 or so. About 1:30 we'll know. And then we'll analyze the data this afternoon. We're going to do model analysis for our My Pocket Meteorologist members. And we're going to be sending, if you are a My Pocket Meteorologist member and you have signed up for it in the last 24 hours or you have been all along, we will be sending these alerts out this evening, probably, I'd say about 4:30 onward. We'll be sending out the alerts. If you do want to subscribe to this program, this is a text and email alert that comes directly to your phone. And you can... or phone or email, and you can find out for your county what we expect. Now, given we notified last night of the possibility. Today we're going to get a little bit more specific, and each day we get a little bit more specific leading up to what we can expect for your particular area. So do look into that. Look for below this video. There's a My Pocket Meteorologist banner similar to this. You can just click on it. It'll take you to the seasonal pay options, and you can select one of the options to get those alerts, and can even join in our back channel discussions for the premium group, which we talk about these storms as they're evolving. So we're going to get into this a lot more. Of course, in the Facebook page, we'll update as we can here. Again, timing right now is looking for Wednesday night time frame. We'll get more specific as we get a little bit closer, and of course our My Pocket Meteorologist members will get that first. So please do check that out. I am Eastern PA Weather Authority meteorologist Bobby Martrich, and that is this week's version of Weather Weeklies. I hope you enjoyed it. Stay tuned to the Facebook page for further updates, and if we have to issue a first call tonight, it will be around 7 p.m. Take care.